Here we go, everybody. Brought to you in part by Outlaw Communications, where creativity is a way of life, specializing in strategic communications, leadership training, and clear conversational content that motivates your audience. Here we go. The voice of the Red Blacks, AJ Jakubec, is with us right on time to recap. AJ, we just heard it. Goalposts moving to the back of the end zone 2027. End zones being moved to 15 yards. Within a couple years, the field shortened to 100 yards. What am I missing? A modified rouge. I think that's it. What do you think about the and the play clock to 35 seconds?
Yeah.
Your thoughts?
Absolutely love it. And quite frankly, I was ready for further changes if they deem necessary. But I love that, you know what, they're not just saying, you know what, we need to go 4 downs. And I'd be okay with 4 downs. I would. There's certain things in the Canadian game I like the return rules. I want to see the width. I want to see the 12 players. I want to see the unlimited motion. There's so many things about the Canadian game which makes it unique and special, and you want to continue to see those wild and wacky things. But you know what? The fact that they're keeping it at 3 and trying to look at other things that they can do to make the game better. Is anyone going to miss a 9-yard field goal? I'm not. Moving the end zone to the back, 20 to 15. I actually thought that was one of the first things I thought. Move the end zones to the back. And I didn't even think about how it's going to affect touchdowns. They think it might add 60 touchdowns over the course of the year. We'll wait and see, of course. But again, just some of the, what it opens over the middle. All of a sudden, if you're at the 8-yard line on 2nd and goal, now you've got more options. And maybe you're not going to kick the field goal. Maybe you're going to go for it. I'm a Washington fan, and I have been for 40 plus years. I could not be more entertained by what Dan Quinn does on a weekly basis, going for it on 4th and 2, 4th and 3. If it's 3rd and a yard and a half, it's like every offensive coordinator and head coach in the league, they got their depends on, because they're scared to make a mistake. So hopefully we see a little bit more aggressiveness and openness in terms of some of these coaches and coordinators. Bring it. Love these changes, Roddy. Love them.
I don't mind them. I mean, I'll be honest. What did you think about the speculation? Because I was told they were coming. You saw my report that they're Americanizing the game. The speculation was wild. And I guess it wasn't quite what people had said. We're not going to 4 downs, as you said. But why?
Yeah.
I think the CFL game's fine. I always did. So why do you think this is necessary?
There's always room for improvement, Roddy. You know how many entertaining home Red Blacks games there have been this year? I'm the play-by-play voice. I love the league. You know that. I love the product. I have for 45 years growing up in Edmonton. I remember Warren Moon and those Eskimos in the early 80s being every bit as big as the Edmonton Oilers. And now what's the gap? It's not even close. They're not even in the same stratosphere. So it doesn't mean I think that if you make a bunch of changes that, all of a sudden the Elks are going to be as big as Connor McDavid and the Oilers. It's not going to happen. They've lost a generation of fans. But you have to continue to progress your game. You can't tell me, if you watched Ottawa, Winnipeg, and Toronto, Montreal, you can't tell me that there aren't changes that can be made to improve the product. There's certainly some things, there's wild, entertaining games. We've seen all that this year. We see all that every year. It's fantastic. But that Toronto-Montreal game was awful this week. That Ottawa-Winnipeg game that I called this week, not very good. Bombers completed 3 passes and won the game. And they're up 15. So, there are definite changes that can be made to improve the product. And I think this still should, look, you can't just go and say, well, we've lost a generation of fans. The younger audience wants NFL-style football. You're going to piss off too many of the old-school fans. So how do you work in the 21st century, trying to look towards a future where we're going to have a future for a long time, but at the same time, appeasing a lot of the hardcore fans that have been there forever? And I think these are the types of rules and changes that I think accomplishes both. Honestly, I don't think they got anything wrong here.
Not yet. And by the way, I appreciate you joining us, because apparently they are in a Q&A segment right now. I got my guy Kevin, the medium, texting me about that. And the commissioner was asked about going to 4 downs. And he said, if I'm paraphrasing, or I will paraphrase, something like, I'm not making any promises. So I do think this coming. Well, it sounds like I think we're going all in eventually.
Well, I don't know if it's all in. Like, I don't think it's going to be all in. I don't think it's going to be the same rules. I don't think anyone wants, I mean, there might be some people that don't watch right now that want NFL light. I certainly don't want that. I think there's a lot of hardcore fans that don't want that. But, one of the things I was going to bring up, if they did go to 4 downs, because again, these are piecemeal changes, and we'll see how it affects the product, and hopefully you get some of the same entertaining games you get, and you get more of them, and you get less duds like the one I called on the weekend. Again, I didn't even answer my own question. How many entertaining Red Blacks home games have I called this year? One. And the first half was awful, and then second half was unbelievable. The Crumback 2.0, that was a fantastic finish to what started as a terrible football game. You could ask me, you could ask the BC guys. We thought it was going to be 7-5 like we saw in 2014. So I just think this is, if you go 4 downs, for example, like one of the things that bugs me, again, it comes back to coordinators and coaches and not being aggressive, the diapers, and I couldn't have said that, but whatever. I'm going to say what I say. Like, how often do you see a team go deep on 1st and 10? But if you had 4 downs, how often would you see that? And maybe they'd still be ultra conservative, but every coordinator / coach in the league is terrified, absolutely terrified of being in 2nd and long. So they either run the ball, which you're going to see runs if it's 4-down football too, or a little check down, I don't care if it's a run or a pass, if it's a little 3 to 5 yard check down. To me, it's the same type of play. You're hoping that somebody breaks a tackle and gets into space and makes a big play. Otherwise, it's kind of the same whether it's run or pass. People want throws down the field, and you're not seeing that enough. We certainly don't see it enough here in Ottawa. So from that perspective, if it would open that part of it up, then I'm all for it. But in the meantime, I think small change is the way to go. It's to me a great day to be a CFL fan. I really think, like, I've heard from 2 or 3 already, hardcores that were nervous, that are like, you know what, I can live with this. I don't even think there's anything I could be concerned about. To me, you have to avoid, well, we've done it this way for 100 years. Yeah, well, there used to be no forward pass. There used to be no forward pass in the NHL as well. You evolve, you move on. It's still a Canadian game, distinct, and that's what we want. We don't want NFL light, and I feel like these changes are a good step in that direction.
I chuckle for a few reasons, and I'll get to them. We'll tell you why in a second. Mark writes in, he says, I think the biggest change is the goalpost totally changes the decision around field goal attempts, which is true. Jeff, the Stamps fan, says, so how does this trickle down to lower levels of Canadian football? Taylor says it'll cost amateur programs tons of money to reduce fields and change goalposts. Carlos in Indy says this will make it easier for the NFL to host international games in Canada, which is probably true. So I'm enjoying the fact that we can sit here and wrap it up, you and I, and have a good discussion about it. But do you remember the furor? Because you and I worked in hockey initially, and you still do. We're going to take out the red line. Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to go to 3-on-3 on
look,
overtime. Oh, okay. Why is it such a fight in football as opposed to hockey?
Yeah. And look, there's sometimes unintended consequences when you make big changes as well. And that's why I kind of like that they're doing this piecemeal, and let's see how it works. It's some of it's going to be implemented in 2026, and then the field and the goalposts is going to be 2027, and then give it 2 to 3 years. And look, if you're still seeing conservative coaches and too many checkdowns, no one's throwing the ball downfield, then you start to look at some of the other moves that you can make, maybe around 2030, if that's what you decide to do. But I think this is, sometimes there's unintended consequences as well. Like, one of the things I hate about hockey and the red line, and I rule, I don't want it, but that deflection in between the red line and the opposite blue line. If I was commissioner for one day, you say one rule in the NHL, I'd say you can complete that pass, but you need to go over the blue line. Otherwise, we're blowing it dead for a 2-line deflection, where essentially it's a glorified icing. So that's one change I would make. It's an unintended consequence of that rule. We'll see what unintended consequences come of this, but I think it is positive. In terms of the amateur football, I mean, the width is still the same. You're just like, I don't know, like, am I missing something? It's not like you need to make things bigger and make more room for amateur. You just have to make things, like, anyone can make things smaller. So, like, I don't understand why that's going to cost amateur football money. It's actually just like a couple of less
Well,
lines that you have to paint because it's
yeah.
100 yards instead of 110. I don't know. Am I missing something here?
I don't know. I don't know what goes into moving the goalposts either. I would assume it's just digging a hole a little further back. But again, I don't work in facilities, so somebody will have to tell me about that. But there are changes. Uh, Kevin, the medium, writes in. He says my only issue with the changes is the 35-second clock, and he says also the commissioner won't guarantee this won't lead to 4 downs. Let's be honest. Before we do move on, and Daniel says, no big changes, guys. I told you not to worry. Yet, not yet. Do you not see a day where it's full on U.S. football rulebook?
I don't. No, not full on. I think, like you could see more changes. You could see 4 downs, but I do think like there's certain things. Again, it's kind of like European basketball and European hockey. I mean, there's different changes. FIBA rules are different than NBA rules. Double IHF rules are different from NHL rules. So I think we're going to see a day where they're going to look at more things, but I mean, full on fair catch in the CFL. I don't see that. Like, because to me, that's the one hill I'd up. Like, there's a lot of things I'm open to, and there's a lot of things, like, doesn't mean I'm right or wrong or whatever fan's going to be dreading the fact that there's no 55 anymore. Or, I love that pass that went off the upright. Was it Cody Fajardo who had the pass off the upright
Yeah.
against
Don't
Winnipeg late?
remind me. Mm-hmm.
My goodness, like how many people are going to miss that? Well, we're not going to have that. We're not, like if they modify that punt on second and 18 that Jason Moss has perfected. Oh, like just a terrible day for the CFL because now teams on second 18 can't kick it to themselves for a first down. Like that's not entertainment. So make the game better, and I think this is. To me, this is honestly as good a day as they could have had. And if you're that old school, old guard, because I love my old school, I love the way things were, but I also think you need to progress. You can't just go back in time and say, let's go back to the 1910s because they weren't taxing anybody, all that kind of stuff. I mean, like our life is better than it was in 1910, like riding in a stagecoach. So like I do like progress. As much as I love old school and tradition and history, and to me these changes balance that probably as well as they could have.
Well, I will applaud the CFL on a lot of things, how they rolled this out. They didn't lie about anything. It was exactly what they said. We're going to announce significant changes, and this is significant, but not intrusive. Nobody can really has the right to run around pissed off here, right? It's little things, but it's not,
Someone
you know,
will, it, and that's fine. Everyone's allowed an
but so
opinion.
far not. So far not. I mean, the play clock is a really big thing too. But I'll
Well, we'll
just
see
and
how
then
it's
write it.
implemented. I think
Yeah,
no one likes to see their team like. I do agree. I love the last 3 minutes in the Canadian Football League. I think this is more about the other 57. And like I notice this sometimes, like teams stall. Teams absolutely stall. And maybe
of
you
course.
change it, maybe you modify it in the last 3 minutes to keep what you've got. But the whole stalling, because it's not like it's just rolling. Play ends. All right, here's another 20 seconds. I think that part of it's actually going to be quicker for most of the game. But again, that might be one of those unintended consequences. Let's see how it works in 2026. That's one of the changes that's going to come in right away.
Eric in BC writes and he says, I'm happy with the changes. Civil Ape says, some things I like. Happy to lose 10 yards if it saves the 3 downs. You'll be in the offensive zone quicker. I won't go into why I think the American rule thing would be a good thing because of the U.S. football stats software programs. We still have horrible stats in the CFL. That's a fact. It's not 1975. I said this earlier. It's hard to track CFL stats. If it was easy, they would be doing it, but they're not. Right? The video game thing, all of a sudden, it's an easy component on EA Sports, Madden, to have a CFL option. Like the hockey.
Yeah.
You with your OHL, because the rules are all the same from every league in hockey. And so, anyway, that's my thought, but that's just me, right? And people, you don't need to don't shoot the messenger. Your Commanders yesterday, did you have any doubt that Marcus Mariota was going to be the man?
Doubt, yes. Jaden Daniels is a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. I'm not putting him top 5 yet. Needs to put it together like he did last year, but he's certainly a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. So when you lose someone that caliber, uh, you know, you're always hoping just I didn't see 41-24, I'll tell you that. But Marcus Mariota's serviceable. I mean, he's won a playoff game as a starting quarterback in the league. So when you've got someone like that that's well liked, that has the experience running the offense, I think pretty good scenario. So pretty good day for backups. I certainly didn't see Carson Wentz going off for the type of day he did with the Vikings. But fascinating start to the season, and a lot of quarterbacks going down. But hopefully not too many serious injuries, and we see some of these guys come back. Would love to see Joe Burrow back at some point this year, because clearly the Bengals, a team that desperately missed him.
By the way, the voice of the Ottawa Redblacks is with us, AJ Jakubec. Note to our viewers, we will talk about the CFL rule changes till the top of the hour. There's just a couple things I wanted to address with AJ, because it has been driving me crazy. I can't decide who's going to have more points in the Atlantic Division this year, the Senators or the Canadians. They both made the playoffs last year. I actually went with Montreal ahead of Ottawa because I just think they have more offensive flair. But tell me why Ottawa will finish higher than Montreal in the standings this year.
Well, who's Montreal's second line center? I think Montreal's a good team. I think they're a playoff team. But that's a big hole. Ottawa's got three. Ottawa's got three guys that can play in your top six. And Ridley Gregg can play center as well. Like that to me is the most important position in the game. People say goaltending or defense and all these things, but to me, it's how are you up the middle? Because it affects offense, it affects how you're defensively, face-offs, the whole works. And when you've got Tim Stützle, Dylan Cousins, and also Shane Pinto, who's big part of Team USA's first World Championship gold medal in eons, and is now part of the radar for the Olympic team. Like that's a pretty good 1, 2, 3 where they could match up against a lot of different teams. So the way I see this division, I think Florida's the team to beat. Clearly, they're the team to beat in the NHL. Don't have to tell you that. And then I feel like 2 and 3 are wide open. Like Mitch Marner, like that's a lot of points that went to Vegas. It's a lot of points. We'll see how it is in the playoffs. And, clearly the Leafs needed to change a little bit of their culture and DNA, and it might pay off in the playoffs. But in the regular season, you're losing a 100-point guy. So if you're asking me who I think is going to be top three, I think 5 from the Atlantic again this year. And I like Florida 1. I like Tampa Bay and Ottawa 2, 3. I like the Leafs and Habs in the wild card spots. So that's how I would have it. But right now, Montreal, as much as I like, they had the Dobson move. They got a pretty good blue line, good goaltending, good wingers, but tough to win with one legitimate top 6 center iceman. And until that gets sorted out, they're going to be trying to fit square pegs in round holes, and certainly try to make a trade to pick up a top 6 center, and that might not happen until February. So yeah, I do like both teams, and both teams are going to be good for a long time. But right now, I like Ottawa over Montreal just because of how they are up the middle.
I got Florida 1, Tampa 2, Toronto 3, Montreal 4, Ottawa 5. But we're darn close. Okay, AJ. Thanks for doing it, man. We made it work. I appreciate you jumping on. Great day for Canadian football.
No, my pleasure. Great day for the CFL, honestly. Like there's a lot of, I'm one of them. I don't mind ripping into the CFL.
Hey, it is what it is. I told you, AJ, it's automation. We'll be right back here on Game Plus TV.